Alright, welcome. This is the GISC1336 Digital Drafting and Design Final Project. For this project, we are going to be walking through the process of being assigned a retracement survey and then pulling in information from a GIS source, a deed record, and then field work that we're going to have mockly created. Our project site is going to be Blucher Park. During this process, we're also going to look at exploring a Central Appraisal District's website and the Texas Digital Library as a source for historical records. So what we're going to go ahead and do is get started here with Blucher Park. And like I said before, that's our site of interest where we're going to be doing a retracement. And what we're going to do first is we're going to locate exactly where Blucher Park is. For this scenario, we're going to imagine that we were not given any information about the location of the park, minus the fact that what we're looking for is Blucher Park. So we're going to go ahead and trust the good old internet to show us where Blucher Park is situated. We do know that it's in downtown Corpus Christi. We can see here it's kind of wedged in between Ocean Drive, I-37, and the Crosstown Expressway. We zoom in a little bit closer. We're going to go ahead and switch our views into satellite imagery so we can get an idea of what's on the ground around Blucher Park. So we can see we have 10 Palms over here and Corpus Christi Public Library there. And we see we're specifically located between Blucher Street, Carrizo Street, Kinney Street, and Tonkawa Street. So we have an idea of where we're going to be doing this survey. We can see, from this that it is a wooded area. This is Corpus Christi, so it's also safe to assume that this is a mesquite wooded area. So there will be, if we have to do any type of topo survey and things like that, those are things we're going to have to deal with. GPS might not be our best friend here. What we might consider for a situation like this is maybe some control targets set out in some open spaces and then utilizing a drone in order to fly this. Now, of course, this is Corpus Christi, so we are right next door to Port Corpus Christi, very close to that. A little bit further down the way is the Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. So we're going to have to make sure that we go through proper channels to have the proper clearances to fly this area. But that honestly would be our most logical approach to collecting a lot more information here. Drone sensors are going to be able to penetrate a lot of the foliage on the trees and get good ground measurements for us, as long as we have adequate number of ground targets to kind of glue that to. All right, so that's where we go, so we know where it's at. So next thing we want to do is we want to look up the Nueces CAD. So again, just open a search browser and type in Nueces CAD, and we're going to go straight to the Nueces CAD property search. Now, we did see on Google that we had a specific address available to us. Let me jump back to this one. It's 209 South Tonkawa Street, so we could search that way. See if we get results. We didn't get anything specifically at that address, and that's going to be common if you kind of work eventually kind of as a blend between GIS and land surveying. You're going to realize that a lot of the addresses on Google are highly unreliable. So what can we do now? Well, luckily these days they have most CADs have a proper GIS, so you'll see an option to open an interactive map on most Central Appraisal District's website these days. So go ahead and click that, and that's going to go ahead and load this GIS for you. So this is the map hosted by a client for them, and what we're going to do is we've already looked, in this case on Bing, apologize for that, where the nature park is. So we're just going to go ahead and navigate this interactive map to it. I know already it's right here. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in on that, and we can see, hey, this is Blucher Park. I see that it's several different parcels here. We don't know which parcels are going to be a part of Blucher Park specifically. We haven't pulled our deed information yet, and we don't know which ones might be owned privately or not considered part of the park. So something that I often do, and I know we can click these and load information and we can see what the owner information is. So we see these are City of Corpus. This one is a Scott Ellison. So what I do a lot of times when I'm utilizing information is I don't want to have to deal with this whole map. A quick way to do it, not all appraisal districts have their data listed publicly, but if you go into the map contents pane, go to parcels, click these three dots to open up this menu, and come down to show item details. So this is going to open up their publicly shared data. So all of this is public information hosted by the Nueces Central Appraisal District for us to use. What I'm going to do is go ahead and click on parcels here. That's the layer that I'm interested in specifically. And then I'm going to have this URL. This URL is going to be the actual feature link. And one thing you'll see pretty quickly, we're going to go ahead and open up ArcGIS Pro, is we're going to see if it is actually publicly accessible outside of their service. So we've copied that link. Go ahead and load up ArcGIS Pro. Open up just a new project or a blank template is fine, and get a map loaded. Once you have that, you're going to come up top on the map ribbon and you're going to click the down arrow for add data and you're going to select from path. And what this is going to do, it's going to allow us to put in a data path either to a service URL, portal, item, files, catalog path, so on and so forth. We're going to paste that feature service that we brought in from Nueces CAD right there. And we see it automatically identifies it as an ArcGIS server web service. So go ahead and click add. It's going to load our data for us. And then we see here, nothing showed up on our map immediately. We're around Nueces County. We see this is grayed out. So if we click on feature layer, we can see there's a scale range. So it's not going to show anything beyond a 1 to 24,000 scale. That's okay. We don't need to see the whole county. We're only interested in Blucher Park. So what we need to do now is zoom in on our map here to where Blucher Park is located. Here we go. And you can see our symbology currently is set to white, so it's kind of hard to see if you have a light gray background like I do. So you can either, change the symbology, or if you don't like the light gray base map, you can do, dark gray or dark human geography, whatever you prefer. And you see that stands out a lot more. Doesn't matter, whatever floats your boat works. We see we have all of the parcels in here right now. And depending on your computer, that might load pretty slow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, again, on the map ribbon, click select, and then just select all of these parcels that are kind of within that area of Blucher Park. Everything that could be of interest to us, we want to select that. And once it's selected, come back over to your contents pane, right click on parcels, hit data, and then export features. Now, this time Nueces CAD allows you to export directly from the feature. Sometimes you'll have publicly accessible data, but this export features will be grayed out. You won't be able to do it. And it's just a setting on their data that doesn't work. So what I have found that works a lot of times as a backup is you can go into your geoprocessing pane and you can go ahead and type in feature to feature. Feature to feature. It's an old tool that has been discontinued. Type in export features and go ahead and select the export features conversion tool. Go ahead and then select parcels as your input feature. And you'll see here, we have an option to use just the selected records, and it tells us how many records we have. And there are 8 parcels here. That's turned on, and we want that because again, we're just trying to capture these few parcels. We don't need everything. So we're going to go ahead and change this to parcels Blucher Park to give it a little bit more meaning. And then we can go ahead and hit run. And then once that's done, you see our labels are duplicating. We can go ahead and come over to parcels, right click on it, and then hit remove. Now we have just our parcels of interest here for Blucher Park. I think it's important whenever you are pulling in service features from things like central appraisal districts or any other source, kind of quickly do what it is that you need to do with it, whether that's export features or some type of quick analysis. Take care of that and then go ahead and remove that from your project in a timely manner. And the reason for that is not every organization is going to have a massive amount of dedicated hardware to their GIS servers. So the more people who are actively trying to use it at a time, the slower it becomes for everybody. So again, do what you need to do and then release it. If I'm not sure what I'm going to do, I'll bring it in, I'll copy the whole data set over, and then remove the whole thing from my project. I don't want to tie up a seat essentially on their feature services. It's just a common courtesy kind of thing. So get what you need and be on your way. Now I can focus on this, the parcels underscore Blucher Park data set that is now stored locally on my machine. And we can go ahead and open this attribute table here, and we can take a look at what we have. We see the majority of these are owned by the city of Corpus Christi, so we have a good idea that those are probably going to be all part of Blucher Park from the deed that we're going to pull. They're high interest. These two less likely, but we're going to go ahead and leave them in there. It's not really a burden to keep them there. So let's go ahead and just leave that at this for now, and we're going to come back to this here in a little bit. We've gotten to this point, so just kind of save your project in case something happens, and then go back into your web browser. So I talked a little bit in the beginning about the Texas Digital Library. What that is, it's a state of Texas managed digital repository that TAMUCC now utilizes for several different things. So we want the TAMUCC version of it. So the quickest way to do that is just in a search browser, type in TAMUCC space TDL. And then you're going to see this link here for the TAMUCC repository. And you'll see up here for the URL -ir.tdl. So go ahead and click on that one to open it up. And then you're going to get this page. And this is going to be the different communities essentially within this. And what we're going to look for, again, is we're looking for historical land records. And while it doesn't seem ideal that that would be here and not in the appraisal district or the county public records, digital records don't exist for all time at the county level. So a lot of historical records have either landed in private collections or been donated to universities. And TAMUCC is one of those universities who has several, I think it's 11 now, land surveying records that have been dedicated to it. And those get stored in our library. So you see we have Mary and Jeff Bell Library here, but there is actually a specific place within the library called Special Collections and Archives. And that's going to be where you're going to find a lot of different historical records. It's not all land data, as we can see here. Once we click on Special Collections and Archives, some of the most recent uploads they have is, historical photos, just a bunch of different information. But we're able to search our repositories. We have a lot of options, whether we want to look for specific authors or subjects. We can put date constraints onto things, all that and so forth. You can see here some of the types. A lot of these are going to be us. We put these in here, so maps, plat, plans, anything like that, topographic maps, those are all in here, just depending on how they put. You can tell they're case sensitive, that's why plat's in here 3 times. That's a little annoying, but that's somebody else's problem. So we know we're looking for Blucher Park, so let's go ahead and search Blucher Park. You can tell I've already gone through this. So type in Blucher Park and click search. And right away you see we have a lot of different information start popping up that kind of tags on to that. And we're not immediately going to see what we're looking for. And we can see there are 48 pages of data for us to go through. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and expedite this a little bit, and we're going to search for Field Notes Blucher Park. Now we see we have an item here listed right away that we're able to click on. So let's go ahead and click on Field Notes of Blucher Park, and then on this PDF go ahead and right click, and you can save it off into a folder for you to use. I've already got it saved, and it's going to look like this, except yours won't have anything highlighted on it yet. And you're going to see those field notes are going to be the legal description for Blucher Park. And that's kind of where we're going to kind of stop right there as far as the Texas Digital Library is concerned. So don't close it, just minimize that web browser, because we're going to come back to it later. So now we have field notes that we're able to look through, and we can see we have, and I've highlighted these. Feel free to do the same on yours if you have the ability to edit PDFs. All of our calls, our distance and bearing calls, are all highlighted specifically as we went through here. And I do that primarily to help me whenever I go into AutoCAD and recreate the survey in AutoCAD like we did in Lab 5. That was. So it's the same concept. We're just identifying all of our calls so we know how many corners we're looking for. We don't have to spend a ton of time reading specifically through this because we've already gone through that. But you'll see we have, who the owner of the current parcels are, where they're supposed to be located in the deed records. So if they have a historical archives at the county, you'll be able to try to find some of this information in there. We have dates and everything that we can search for. So what we do next is we're going to prepare. One second. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prepare our coordinates, or our traverse for Blucher Park. So go ahead and open up Notes on your computer, and let's go ahead and start working on this. So I need you to put out traverse for Blucher Park, and then as I did in Lab 5, I always like to put my reminders for which quadrant is which number for whenever we're trying to draw or redraw a retracement boundary ahead of time. So northeast is 1, southeast is 2, southwest is 3, northwest is 4. And what we're going to do from there essentially is we're going to start recreating all these. So we see our first call is northeast 75 degrees, 9 minutes, 40 seconds. So that's 175.09, 40, and we see the distance is 163.35 feet. And luckily this time it is feet, so we don't actually have to worry about unit conversion. Sorry, the word was not coming to me. All right, southeast, that's going to be 14.50, 20 for 140.89 feet. Another southeast 2 for 84 degrees, and that's going to go 74.33 feet. I'll go ahead and switch these from spaces to tab. Just easier to read. Scroll down to our next one, northeast 46 for 50 feet, southeast 4.31, 50, 115.54 feet, Southwest 3, 59.4530, 186.61. Southeast 2, it's going to be 0.1430 for 235 feet. Then Southeast 2, 20.1430 for 103 feet exactly. Southwest 3 for 88.4140 for 185.27 feet. Let's scroll back down to our last few. Northwest 4, 16 degrees exactly for 514.73 feet. And then northeast 1 for, 74 degrees, 143.10. And then northeast one more time for 0 degrees, 49 minutes, 40 seconds east for 78.19 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and just go back through in the beginning, double check all of these. So first call, 750940, it is northeast, that's 163.35. Second call is southeast, that's 2 for 1450.20, 140.89 feet. Third call, southeast, that's 2 for 84 degrees exactly. And again, we have a lot of calls within here, but then we see in all for 74.33 feet. Fourth one is 46 going northeast, that's 150 feet. Southeast, that's 2 for 4.3150, 115.54. Southwest, that's 3, 59.4530, 186.61. Southeast, 0 degrees, 1430. See, that's why we double check. Should be 1430, not 1530. 59, 45, 30. 235 feet. Then 2 south 20, 14, 30, 103 feet. 88, 41, 40 going southwest. 185.27. Northwest is 4, 16 degrees exactly. 514.73. 74 degrees exactly going northeast, that's 1 again, 143.1 feet. Northeast, 0 degrees, 49 minutes, 40 seconds east, that's 1, 78.19. All right, looks good. We'll find out pretty quickly. This was a Blucher survey, so we know it's going to be pretty accurate when we try to recreate it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and come into AutoCAD, and you can see we don't actually have a point of basis for this. We haven't gone out, we haven't shot anything, but what we did do was we started looking at that GIS. So actually, before we get into AutoCAD, go ahead and jump back over to ArcGIS Pro. And what I want you to do now is in your geoprocessing pane, go ahead and type in shapefile. And we're going to go feature class to shapefile conversion tool. So open that up. For your input features, pick your parcels, and we want all of them. If you've selected anything, go ahead and click clear up here in the map ribbon first, or deselect that option to only take the selected ones. And then pick a folder. So find out wherever you're saving all of your project work to so far, which really should just be that deed. And then go ahead and export your shapefile into the same location where you saved off that the legal description. So I've already done that, so we're going to go ahead and minimize that. In your project, go ahead and come over into your folder where you have everything located, and I hate this view, in your list, find the shapefile. So you're going to get all of these different outputs from your parcels. Find the one that ends in .shp, so that's going to be the actual shapefile. I want you to click that and then drag and drop it into Civil 3D. And you can see immediately that loads those objects into Civil 3D. Now, this is just a reference. We're not saying this is our parcel or anything like that, but it's an ideal reference, and it gives us an ideal of maybe where we should begin our survey from whenever we're trying to do this retracement. What we need to do actually one more time on our legal description, we need to go back and we need to look at where it said our point of beginning was. So, beginning at a point in the south boundary line of Blucher Street, originally named Chatham Street, a northwest corner of 4.78 tract of land known as the CFHV Blucher Arroyo tract, and designated as second tract in the subdivision first, and a certain deed of partition between Charles F.H.V. Blucher and George A.V. Blucher dated September 11th, 1903, and recorded in the deed records of Nueces County, yada yada yada. Okay, so we know our beginning point is at the edge of this tract. It's going to be explicitly on Blucher Street. So if we come back real quick into ArcGIS Pro, you have your base map. So we see we have Blucher Street here. And then we have to identify, okay, what's going to be that first point. So it's south line of Blucher Street. That's most likely going to be this point here. Seeing that this is not an explicit corner, I doubt it's going to be there, but it could, yeah, it's going to be this corner for sure. So when we start our drawing in AutoCAD, we know we want to pick this point, this corner, as our starting point for our retracement when we do the deed retracement. And again, this isn't in place of the survey, this is just us gathering information from the start. So we have that loaded there, and we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to draw lines, and we're going to draw them, create line by bearing, just like we did in Lab 5. So go ahead and click that. We're going to pick that corner as our starting point, and now we're going to go ahead and utilize this information that we just filled out. Oh, it's not going to work like that, is it? So you'll have it on your screen, your full screen. You'll be able to see all of these calls. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to put it up to the side and we're going to start. So we know quadrant 1, 75.094 is our bearing, distance 163.35. So that's our first line. Already we can see we probably started at a good point because that line is pretty close to what we're seeing from that GIS data. If we zoom in closely, we see it's not exactly the same, but again, a GIS is not survey level accuracy. So we're going to keep going through all of these. Next one is 214.5020, 140.89 is the distance. So again, we're looking pretty good. We're following the general shape so far. 284.74.33, 146.50 is the distance. 4.3150, 115.54 is the distance. 359.4530, 186.61, 0.1430, 235, 220.1430, 103, 388.4140, 185.27, 4, 16, 514.73, 174, 143.10, 0.4940, 78.19, and that finishes it for us. So if we zoom in, we see that's damn near perfect closure. So that's a really good survey. That deed, that legal description is really clean. We see we follow a very similar shape as this GIS. So we also see it's not one tract, but it's these 3 separate tracts that are making up the area defined for Blucher Park, at least within this deed. So that tells us that, you know, there's 3 tracts here. These other ones are not explicitly part of this deed, even though we did see that this tract, and this tract are all owned by the city of Katy as well. Different purposes or donated at different times. That's all that probably means. So what do we do from here? This is the point where we could go back to the courthouse. We could find our additional information for these 3 parcels all being turned into Blucher Park. That's going to be important as part of your deed research and your evidence for your retracement. We might even consider pulling up information for all of the adjacent parcels that are within this kind of stretch of street here, just to make sure that we kind of covered all of our bases, pull in all that deed information, make sure we don't have encroachment concerns or things like that. Since we pulled in this shapefile, this actually has a coordinate system attached to it. So we brought this in, and we're not sitting at 0, 0 here. Quick way to see that, if you try to create a line, you can see our starting points are listed as we're pretty far out there. So that's using a coordinate system. Specifically, it's using the Texas South state plane coordinate system. So keep that one in mind as well as we go forward, because you're going to see how that kind of has an impact on things. So again, other things that we could and probably would do at this point as far as the land surveying side of things are concerned is we would take this deed, we would create points on all of these corners from our deed sketch. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. We don't need those in our drawing anymore. They were a nice set of references in there for us, but this deed sketch is going to be what's mostly important to us. Like I said, we would create points at each of these corners and use those kind of for our guide when we go trying to identify those corners on the ground. To do that, here, let's create ground data points. We can do a point creation tool, as simple as just coming through. We want to make sure that we actually start with the point of beginning. We want where we started, not where we closed. Point description, you can put POB, and we'll just leave the elevations at 0. So we'd go through and we'd do that for each one. What we might do here too is we would go back into our deed, and we're going to look at what the monumentation was called for as. So we had our point of beginning, and we see that we went to a 1-inch iron bar on our first call from our point of beginning, our second call from our point of beginning. How many more of these are iron bars? Third call is an iron bar. Fourth call is an iron bar. The fifth call is not an iron bar. It looks like it is a south boundary line of another piece of property with a concrete monument nearby. So let's see. Yeah, so there's just a concrete monument as a witness to that point. So we would follow this all the way to this iron bar, and then what we would actually do, we'd go off this distance, go our 115.54 at that bearing, mark that point. We know that there's not a specific monumentation outside of a line that another boundary line that we're looking for, and from there we have another distance and bearing to a concrete monument nearby. So that's how we would confirm that when we reached this point that it was correct. So we would probably be setting a pin at that point, unless we find monumentation set by a previous surveyor also doing a retracement of this boundary at that location. But it's likely going to be in the middle of the road at this point. So maybe we're not going to actually be able to find monuments. Maybe we'll just put a mag nail in the ground and mark that for now. We'd move on. Again, we're just going to another point on a line. This one doesn't have a witness, so we might have to pull those other deeds from parcels around us and see if they have monumentation set so that we can properly recover this corner. Then we'd go forward again. If we don't find anything, that's when you can set a pin, but you want to make sure that you look diligently for one. Move forward. Again, this is calling to another corner, so we would utilize the right-of-way evidence that we have and look for anything that's potentially set, but we don't have an explicit piece of monumentation called for here. Same thing with this one. Moving forward. Okay, so this one is on a railway company land, so not likely to find anything there, but we do see a call to the Blucher homestead that would be nearby. Again, another corner that we're looking between parcels on the railway's right-of-way. And again, if we go back into our map, we look in, I'm not seeing any trains here. I don't know about you. Which means that there's been a lot of changes in growth in this area since then. So again, what we're going to have to end up doing instead is leverage some of our additional parcels nearby in order to try to justify setting of new monumentation. And that's where the due diligence part comes into play a lot. Again, another corner, and then back to our place of beginning. So what we're going to do for all of these, how many of those did I say were iron bars? It was 4. So we'll call our first 4 points iron bar, leave it at elevation 0. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, it's all just corners. You can use different descriptions or whatever that you like. I'm just kind of keeping it simple here for us. Because again, this is a mock. So what we would do then is we now have these points. We can see them here. They're listed here. So we can go ahead and go to our point groups. We're going to start a new point group, and I'm just going to call it deed, because these are just the points that we created from our deed. I don't need any description on them. Just the marker is going to be fine. Yeah. Go ahead and put deed star as what to include for with raw description matching and hit OK. I know that's not going to bring anything in right of way. So what we're going to do is open up all points, and in our raw description, we're going to add deed in there on each of these. If you're following along but haven't done it, then hey, lucky you. You don't have to go in and edit anything. And hey, important thing to note here, why can we edit these? Are these COGO points or are they survey points? Clearly they're COGO points. But anyways, COGO points, we're able to edit them right here very easily. It's simple, that's done. We can hit that green check mark, and now we have deed. So we see we still have this error here, so let's right click point groups, hit refresh. It should have updated. Hang on. Okay, right click it and open up properties, go back to include, make sure you have deed star in there, star meaning anything that starts with deed is going to get included in this point group. Click apply, click OK. Our error message went away. We now see we have just our deed points marked here. So from that, we would actually be able to export our points, set a specific format for it, pick a destination, and before you would go out on your survey, you would load this point data either onto your total stations controller or your GPS handheld controller. So that would, then when you get out to the field, you would establish, hey, I'm set up, I'm shooting this location, and now it's going to essentially from there allow you to stake out the rest of these points. It's pretty useful doing stakeouts. That's what a lot of the pre-planning work is for, because you have a good idea that within a reasonable radius of this point here, you should recover monumentation that's called for, or evidence of monumentation from a previous surveyor doing a retracement, and know that you're kind of in the right area. When you do a stakeout and you shoot in over a stakeout point, depending on what type of survey equipment you have, it's going to do one of two things. Either it's going to update that stakeout point to a survey point, it's no longer going to be a COGO, it will become an actual survey point, and it'll do the adjustments on the fly for you to update the spatial information for that point. Or other equipment will, on top of the stakeout point, create an additional point that ties that survey point to that stakeout point on your controller, and it'll show you things like the variance and stuff from what your design was to what you found. A lot of times that information is more useful for construction projects, but again, it's something that you're able to do even for boundary retracements, because then it'll give you very quick analysis of how the deed calls differed from what you found on the ground. So, because as we know, monumentation comes first and foremost. All right, so moving forward, we're going to pretend here that we've gone and we've done our survey. We've found all of our monumentation or our corners with the evidence that we've collected so far. And now we need to bring in our found data, and we're going to compare that to our COGO data. So in Civil 3D, go ahead and come over to survey. In your survey database, you'll probably just have survey 1. Go ahead and right click that, hit open for edit. I don't know why it thinks I have an import event, but regardless, oh, this is because we drug in the GIS data. So I'm going to go ahead and hit new survey database. I'm going to call this one Blucher Park. So go ahead and do that, and then on import events, we can hit import survey data. On our wizard here, go ahead and make sure you have Blucher Park selected. Click next. We're going to change this to a point file. We're going to go ahead and navigate to where we have our data saved at. So for me, that's going to be here. Which one of these is? Sorry, it's weird for me because I have too many OneDrives. And we're going to go ahead and open up the found data. So your found data, you'll have downloaded that as data for this project. So go ahead and click on that, click open. And and then we're going to see it's identified our import type. So go ahead and click next. We don't have an existing survey network, so we can leave that alone. Click next. All of our default settings are going to be okay. Go ahead and click finish. Now we see we have found in here that there are survey points. We can right click on points, go into the points option, and then hit insert into drawing. So now we have that. We can go back into the prospector tab. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new set of points. So we did see, let's go into this real quick, that all of our stuff that we found is FND, so found. Point group, create a new point group. I'm going to call that point group found FND. We really don't need, well, I guess it'll be helpful to have it. We're going to put point number and description for our point label style. We can leave the point style as basic if we'd like. On include, go to with raw descriptions matching. We're going to do FND star, so any of our found points are going to be in there. And now we see what we have. Now immediately you'll notice, hey, these are all shifted. And what that likely is done from is there was a either discrepancy in the coordinate system used for the that GIS data on the appraisal district's website, or there could be another underlying issue with some of the coordinate information. However, this is COGO data, and we're comparing that to actual found data in the field. So this found data is going to hold precedent over all of this information. So this also would imply that we used a GPS to collect this information, because if we had used a total station and we didn't tie it in to any benchmarks or control points in the area, this point of beginning would have been tied to this regardless. So we see it's a pretty standard shift. There's nothing alarming going on with it. It's pretty consistent everywhere we look. So what we want to do now is focus on moving forward, and we're going to actually work on running our traverse in here for us within AutoCAD. So again, now that we have our point groups marked, I want to differentiate these points beyond just having a label, because some of them get kind of close to each other. I don't want it to be confusing. So for our deed, let's go ahead, our deed points, let's right click that. Let's go into properties, and for our point style, let's go ahead and create a new point style. We're going to go ahead and click on the information tab of this window, and let's call it deed for the name. And then for the marker, we can go ahead and change it to something simple, like the circle will turn off the X by clicking the blank one here. So we'll just have a circle. Click on display, and then we need to change this color. So instead of using the default color, we don't want to compete with the red and kind of reddish orange label. So we're going to go ahead and make these like a light blue. So go ahead and do that. You can pick one. I'm picking index color 151. And I'm going to go through all of my view directions. I'm going to make sure that it is now consistently going to show as that kind of gray-blue color on all of them. Go ahead and hit apply, OK, and apply again, and OK. So now we see we have that light blue one. So whenever we're trying to run our traverse for our found points, it's not going to really be in our way. Another thing that we're able to do now is we no longer need this original deed sketch. Well, no, we'll hold off on that. We'll run this traverse first, and then we'll deal with all the extra lines. So click on the home ribbon up here, and then under create ground data, we're going to do a traverse. So let's hit traverse editor, and then right here we're going to go from a point. So let's select our point of beginning. We see that's right here. Oh, make sure you have your snapping turned on. I do, but it's not snapping. There we go. That'll be our first point. And then we're actually not going to follow a line. We have point information, so we're going to have to click each of those over each time. So click on the green dot so you can select it, and you see that line appears. We're going to select this point here. And then we're going to keep doing that. Oop. You can see the naming convention for our points. We went ahead and started on the 100 mark. And we already know from all the work we've done ahead of time that there should be 12 points here. So we should be going up to 112. Almost there. And then that will be our final point. We'll go ahead and close it with our final site here. All right, so that is our traverse. So we might want to, first we're going to go ahead and save it off. Again, we're going to save it in the same location that we're saving all of our project data so far. So this is just the traverse file. I'm going to put Blucher Park underscore TRV for the traverse. Then, now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and do our load balance. And, you know, we'll get something crazy looking. Let's close that and try again. There we go. Alright, hopefully you don't get the same error. Traverse source, we're going to go ahead and pick our Blucher Park traverse if it didn't load for you immediately, so we'll have that one. We can see we have our angular misclosure is perfect on this one. We have our area, we have our perimeter. We have some error in the distance, that's fine. We can apply our adjustment, and then we're going to save that compass adjustment off as well. So save that, click OK, click Generate Report, and then hit Current Adjustment to apply. And then go ahead and save this as Blucher Park. TRV 80J. So that's your traverse adjustment. And then put compass on the end so we know what type of adjustment we utilized. So Blucher Park underscore TRV 80J underscore compass. Do that, hit save, and then you can go ahead and hit done. So now we have a proper traverse and a polygon in here that we can utilize. So the next thing we need to do is we need to remove this information, all of these lines from the deed sketch. The points are fine, all these feature lines that we created are going to be kind of in our way going forward. We don't want to be confused by any of that. The points themselves staying tells us enough information about the difference between what was found on the ground and what the local GIS is going to be showing people. Excuse me, this isn't directly from the GIS. This is recreating the deed from that corner on the GIS. So that is set. Next thing we need to do is we need to create a site because we want to create a parcel here. So site, new, we're going to call it Blucher Park. Go hit apply, okay. We now have a site. We see we don't have any parcels yet. So again, on our home ribbon, under create design section, go to parcel, and then hit create parcel from objects. And now we'll be able to select our parcel with all of these lines from our traverse. Now it's important to select them in order so that we don't have to do a renumbering. Oh, and when I pan, if anyone's curious how I do that and stay within the tool, I'm clicking my mouse wheel, wow, that was difficult to say, my mouse wheel down and dragging at the same time. And you see that allows me to pan and then come right back to the tool that I'm in. I think I had some questions about that previously. So we have them all selected. We can see down here there are 12 total objects selected. We can go ahead and hit enter. We see it's going to go into our Blucher Park site. Parcel style is going to be property. That's fine, we can leave it as property for now. For our area label style, we're going to want to do name, area, and perimeter. We're going to want to go ahead and hit edit current selection, and then we're going to go here, and okay, we see it's already going to be the areas in acres and the perimeters in feet, so that's perfect. So we go ahead and cancel. There's nothing to change there. We're happy with that. We do want to automatically add segment labels. We're going to do bearing over distance for our line segment labels. There are no curves, so we can leave this just as is. It's irrelevant. And then we can hit OK. So now we have our parcel generated with all of our system, but we see it's conflicting with the traverse reports labels that were already created. So you could actually go through and select those and just delete them. They're just individual objects. You can select them all at one time, delete them one at a time, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure you are selecting the ones from the traverse report. So when you're done with this, all of the white labels will be gone and the green labels will still be present. All right. So now we're wondering, what else do we need to do? We've brought in our information. We've looked at the point data from the GIS. We've looked at our actual data found on the ground, and we've seen our information based on the deed prep, our working sketch. So go back and we're going to go ahead and bring in that shapefile one more time just to kind of look at that alignment of all those parcels. So we can see how different it really is, how off that CAD's data was. We do still see it is these 3 parcels, but there's just a big shift in all of the information. So go ahead and select those one more time because we just wanted to confirm one more time that there was a shift. What we could have done is we could have gone and created additional corners from that deed for all those additional parcels that were around it, but that's not entirely necessary. What we do need to do now is we need to find out when all 3 of these parcels became one. To do that, we're going to go back into the Texas Digital Library. So just kind of save your your drawing where you're at right now. Save it again in the same location as all of your other work. I'm going to do that now. And save it as your last name underscore Blucher Park. All right, let's go back into our web browser, and we're going to go back to where we found the field notes originally. So let's go ahead and hit back once, and instead of putting field notes Blucher Park, let's just search Blucher Park one more time. And let's see some of the information we have. We see we have agreements on Blucher Park, different documents all listed here. And this is all information that we would probably be clicking through to learn more about. So again, we're going to keep going through. We don't see specifically what we're looking for here. We'll go into that second page, that dreaded second page, and then eventually we'll find the Blucher Park deed. So let's go ahead and click on that. And again, open up that data. Maybe not that one. Where's the one? The PDF. Let's open up that PDF, and now we have a deed for Blucher Park. And as we go through this, we see this is a deed for Blucher Park, but this isn't the one that's giving us the information about all three of these parcels kind of becoming one. So bit lost there, so we have to go back again. We continue searching through, we go through the other deed documents, not exactly what we're looking for. Go into the third page, and we see here the first item on the third page is the Marie M. von Blucher's deed conveying 3 tracts of land to becoming part of Blucher Park in Corpus Christi. Now, if that doesn't sound like exactly what we're looking for, I don't know what is. That's about the best name you're ever going to find for something. Let's go ahead and open that up, and voila, we now have this deed that's showing all 3 of those parcels being joined together to create this tract. So we can go ahead and save that off, and then we're going to open it once we have it saved. And then I saved mine just as Blucher Park deed. And then I went and highlighted some important parts. So we see we have, the grant convey onto the city of Corpus Christi all those 3 certain tracts. So that's the 3 tracts that we identified, owned by the city, coming out of the east portion of the 4.78 acres of land from the Blucher Arroyo tract. So we know it's a subdivision of that original tract. We see where it should be located. We identify that a lot of this is already called for within our legal description, so we have the relations there. We see again, it's conveyed to the city of Corpus Christi, who it's all coming from, and how much of Blucher Park, of that grant is going to be Blucher Park, so 3.32 acres. So that kind of ties everything together for us. We now have the actual deed that conveys ownership to the city. We have the legal description that properly shows the corners, the boundaries of this granted land, all 3 of these tracts. We've recreated those in Civil 3D, as working points based on information that we pulled from the Nueces County Central Appraisal District. We processed those parcels down to what we needed in ArcGIS Pro. So we have this, and we put this out as a shape file so that we can bring it in easily to Civil 3D. Then we've gone out, we've collected our data, we've run a traverse on that information, we've done a balance of all of our error, which was very minimal, and then we've gone through and we've now put in all of our correct annotation. The only thing we have left to do is to put this into a layout. So let's go ahead and take this information and put it onto a proper template. So, excuse me, don't just create a new one. You can go ahead and right-click Model, then hit From Template, and then we'll go into our mapbook templates, and we're going to do the mapbook template 11 by 17 classic. If you really want to do another one, go for it, or just keep it simple and do this one. All right, so mapbook template 11 by 17 classic. Go ahead and hit open. And then for our layout, we're going to let it stay as ANSI B. Hit OK. And let's go ahead and click on that. So we see immediately we have some of our base information in here. What we need to do first and foremost is get our template to show us the correct information. If you double click it, you'll see that it will then give you allow you to activate that template so that you can kind of navigate around. But you see we're not seeing our drawing anywhere, so maybe on parcels we'll refresh this so we can expand it. Now you can expand parcels. You'll see property 1. We can hit zoom to, but it just brings us to this point here, so that doesn't really do us any good. What we need to do is we need to set a geolocation for all of our data. We can see we have this here, but then it's just mumble jumbled because we've been zooming around. Our geolocation is not correct yet. So what you kind of have to do is continue to zoom in, click out of it until you get it to kind of be at a normal size. That's going to bring everything in. You can see we have a lot of issues trying to read things. Our point descriptions, our lines, none of that stuff works. So let's go ahead and first and foremost, while we're still within the viewport, up here we're going to hit geolocation. We're going to hit edit location, and we're going to say from Esri maps. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to put in a Latin long for these locations. So how we get an explicit Latin long for one of these corners, the quickest way, since we already have ArcGIS Pro open, we can go ahead and open this, and then we can go open ArcGIS Pro, go back to our found point file. We're going to drag found into our project. Or what you can do, instead of having to parse things down, you're going to have a georectification text file in your project data. You can drag that one in instead, open that to review it. You can see we have all of these different, hang on. Sorry, I had a outdated file in there. In your data set, you'll be able to drag in georectification. You can hit open. You can see there's just simple field 1, field 2 in there. We can then go create points from table, create XY table to point. It's going to be field 1, field 2. We're going to leave this as 1984. We should see the point. Forgive me, third time's the charm. On your georectification table, go ahead and right click that, create your points from XY. Your X field is field 2, your Y field is field 1. Rookie mistake, I do it an embarrassingly high number of times because I'm going too quickly. Go ahead and set that again. X field is field 2, Y field is field 1. Click OK. You'll have that point generated. You'll see from our parcel that point is showing where our point of beginning was actually set. So when we go back over into Blucher Park, we can now use that information in that georectification text file. Why we don't do state plane, because this requires a lat long, so go ahead and put that in, hit search. You can see it's going to drop that point right there for us. We're going to hit next. but our data actually in our project is going to be Texas South. So how do we know which one of these we're supposed to use? So we know we're going to use this 2011 one here, and I'm telling you it'll be this one. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into ArcGIS Pro one more time. On our map, right click the name of your map, go into Properties, and then you'll see we have Texas South Plain right here selected. When it's up here, click Details, and you'll see this WKID number as 6586. So that is the actual code for this projected coordinate system, 6586. So when we come back in here, we see 6586 listed. So this is Texas South in feet. You know, we see that as the reference and the unit here, but that's the best way is this code. WKID and the EPSG codes are going to be identical. So do that, go ahead and click Next, and it's going to want us to pick a point. Now, when we were looking at it, it was showing us this point actually from the GIS as that point, but we want to put it tied on properly to the data that we actually found. So go ahead and click our point to beginning, and then it's going to ask you for a north direction. I want you to just type in 90 and press enter. And now it's going to load our data in the wrong spot. So we did something wrong there. Let's do that one more time. Edit location from Esri Maps. We're going to put in the lat and long that we selected. This time we're going to remember to hit drop marker here. Now we see that the marker is dropped, so it's actually going to use this point, not the incorrect default point it had for us. Click Next. It's just practice, you know, that's the best part of mistakes, is it's just helping you practice. We're on 6586 for our coordinate system. We'll click Next. We'll click the same point as our insertion point. We're still going to select 90 as our true north. And now we're going to see we're right there in Blucher Park. Now you can leave this imagery on here, but one reason that I like to not use an imagery base map is because it kind of leads users to believe that, hey, that point is right there on the ground. And this isn't imagery that we processed. We don't know the georectification that it's been through, what its level of error may or not be. If we flew drone imagery and we brought that into our project, that would be a different story. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here, still on the geolocation ribbon, click Esri imagery, and then I'm going to switch it to Esri light gray. And then I'm going to go ahead and set a scale. So down here, the bottom right of Civil 3D, go ahead and click that button, and then let's find a scale that we think will be good. So this is 1 to 75 feet. We see some of our points get cut off, so let's do 1 inch equals 80 feet. Now we feel like everything's in there. The next thing we need to do is we need to clean up some of how all of this looks. It's overlapping, it's messy, it's hard to see. So we'll go over to the annotate ribbon, and then we're going to hit add tables. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do parcel, add line. We're going to create a line for our parcels. So again, go ahead, click this to select from the screen. We're going to have to pick each of our labels, pick them in order so that the numbering is going to be accurate. You'll know you're done when it says that you've got 12 total. Go ahead and click enter. We're going to convert all selected labels to tag mode. Then we're going to hit OK. And then pick a place to drop our parcels lines in. We still have some overlap going here, so maybe we might do the same thing for our points. But the first thing that we identify is this table. It's pretty large on our map. It's taking up a little bit too much space. So with that table selected, up here under the table ribbon, we can go to Table Properties, click the down arrow, and then go to Edit Table Style. So we're going to go straight into hang on. We're going to go straight into the Data Properties tab, and then over here we're going to make all this information a little bit, the height's a little bit smaller. So we're going to change our title height to 0.1, our header style to 0.75, and our data style, to 0.075. 0.75 will be huge. And then go ahead, hit apply and OK. So we see the table is a lot smaller and a lot easier to kind of fit onto our screen at this point. It's going to be important because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come back up to the annotate ribbon, add tables, add a point table. Then we're going to select the points that we want to include in our point table. We only want our found points on this table. We're not interested in any of the GIS points. That information is not going to be particularly necessary for any user. We would include that shape file in a data packet for delivery, but that's kind of it. So let's do that. Leave all the defaults in place and then go ahead and just, oh wait, I have 11 selected. Hey, pay attention, this should say 12. Oh, I have to start over. Now I just did all that, but something, oh, see, now it says there's 23 selected, so I only needed to select the one to add it. Another way to do that a little bit quicker, instead of picking them on the screen, we can explicitly pick a point group. So if I'm only interested in my found points, I can click that, click OK, and I have one point group selected. I don't need to do anything else at this point. I just click OK, and then pick an insertion point. Again, we see the information is a little bit larger than we'd prefer. So again, with that point table selected, go Table Properties, Edit Table Style. We're going to adjust these to the same measurements, text heights that we did before. 0.1, 0.075, 0.075. Apply and OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the decision to swap these around. I'm going to put my points on the bottom and my parcel lines on the top. And then I kind of wish these two would be lined up together. So with them both selected, I'm going to go ahead and type in align as a command and then just click enter. And then I'm going to select this as my first point and I can't, so yeah. Just along that line is my second point. Nope, I did that wrong. Well, a quicker way to do it then would be to, maybe if I center them, I can hit move, I'm going to turn on selection for midpoint. Oh, it doesn't find it. Well, that's obnoxious. Well, a quick way is do that, find this, scroll up, that green bar will present itself, and click. Then let's zoom in, put it back to 1 inch equals 80, and that looks a lot better to me. Well, I say that, but I see that I need to move these two. So with our points, I see I have the descriptions here. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my point group found. I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to change the point label and style to point number only. No longer need that description there because it's going to be over here on our point table. This is going to give the end user, oh, and when you're done with the viewport, double click out of it to come back into template view. So now you can zoom in without adjusting the map too much. So you can come in, you could move some of the labels around for different leaders, clean it up a little bit if you'd like. If any of you choose to do that, if you work on improving readability of this map beyond what we've done here, I'll add up to an extra 5 points on your final project grade. So that'll make a total of 10 extra credit points if you've done, or 15 extra credit points if you've also done the Gracia Geomatics presentation. All right, so little Easter egg in there for y'all. Now we just need to finish filling out our template. So we're going to go ahead and adjust some of these. We see organization name. I'm just going to put in Gillis Geospatial because that's who I do my contracting work under. Do something with your name, be clever or punny, you know, make it fun. Do it and it'll update right there. For our file name, we can go ahead and leave it as it is. It's going to say that, hey, this template belongs to that drawing. Our plot date, that's going to be today. So for me, it's 2025, May 7th. For our drawing scale, we set that already. That is going to be 1 inch equals 80 feet. And then for our sheet number, there's only one sheet to this drawing. So we're going to put 1 of 1, and that's it. So do that. That's going to update all that information. For our legend, this information, if we had left the drawing in here from the GIS data, this legend would be more useful. But at this point, there's not really any information for us to need to include in there. For our key map, what this is missing is it doesn't have a set of image or a map turned on. So we can turn on Esri Light Gray. It should have loaded with that. Give me one moment. Okay, in the key map, with it selected, go ahead and double click it. Click the double down arrow underneath the pan tool, hit zoom, and then hit zoom extents. All right, that'll bring you right into where we're at. You can zoom out at that point and then just kind of focus it a little bit on the Corpus Christi area. You don't have to use the imagery map. You can do light gray or whatever it is that you prefer, and then just double click out of it. I don't know why it's not regenerating. Oh, that was a mistake. I've messed up. I don't know why it's being so difficult for us right now, but we'll get there. Alright, the imagery loads, that's fine. A little marker there, so we see this is the area in which we're working. That's just a nice little piece of information for us to have. For our legend, like I said before, there's nothing needed. These tables tell us everything we need to know about the information here. If you want to insert a logo into your drawing for yourself, you can. To do that, I mean, you simply can drag in any, let me think. I know I have it in here. Drag in any picture that you want. So I just drag in the thumbnail for the final project. I don't know why it won't let me select it. Doesn't matter. Anyways, you do that, you have your template. From here, we're able to save our template or export our template. So we can export it, but if we don't have the rights to use for the maps, what you could do at this point is just hit the Windows key Shift S, and that'll allow you to essentially make a screen capture of this. If you go through the efforts of creating, custom map insets or capture areas, that'd be great. But again, it's not going to be necessary. So once you make that screenshot in your Windows notifications, you'll be able to click that in the bottom right. This will show up, and then you can save it off. Essentially here, we'll just do that real quick. None of that information. And I'll call this Gillis Blucher Park final deliverable. So just do your last name _ Blucher Park _ final deliverable and hit save. And then what you're gonna need to do next is go to the folder. So we're done with this. You can save your drawing. Do save your drawing. Close it. You can close AutoCAD or ArcGIS Pro, and if you have anything else open, you can close that at this time too. So go to where you've been saving everything so far. I want you to create a new folder. Do your last name. Lordy. Call that folder your last name _ final project. And what I want you to include in here is I want you to include the Blucher Park deed. I have it open, hang on. The Blucher Park legal description, both the things we found on the Texas Digital Library. I want you to include the Blucher Park shapefile and all of its relevant information that was exported from ArcGIS Pro. Put those into the folder. I want you to put your traverse adjustment, so that's really all I need. These two, go ahead and drag those and drop those into the folder. Your found text is not necessary, but your traverse for Blucher Park, so that is going to have been all of this information when we were working on converting it from our deed. It doesn't have to be formatted like this, but the information that you extracted from the legal description in preparation of loading it in AutoCAD, drag that, bring that into the final folder, and then your drawing. I want your final drawing to go in there, and then your final image, so the final deliverable, whether you did a screenshot or you exported it, either way is going to work. That 11:17 layout, drag that into your final project folder as well, and then there'll be a list of deliverables in the data that you download. Everything else we don't need, so go ahead and then right click that folder, come down to send to. Why do I feel like I'm not? I hate Windows 11. I'm not used to it yet. Come down to send to, and then hit compressed folder, so zip it. And then this zipped folder with all of that information is going to be what I need you to submit for your final project. So this exact exercise that we went through is your final project. It took us about an hour and a half of kind of walking through it, so it really shouldn't take you much longer than that. May 16th is the last day for finals. That's going to give me the weekend to get it graded, and then your final grades will be submitted to SAIL on May 19th, that Monday. So again, May 16th, this needs to be submitted. All right, thank you. That's all. Hope you all enjoyed this semester. I definitely enjoyed teaching this. Y'all were my guinea pigs, so it's been a lot for me, kind of learning as I was going through how I was going to teach this course. Hopefully it went well for all of you. I felt like it did. Again, it was enjoyable. I hope you all have a wonderful summer break and don't have to take any summer classes. And then enjoy, next semester, getting ready.